Hello again, everybody. It has been a couple weeks since I've been able to actually do the live stream thing because I've been working on getting all of my digital submissions ready for my university project because as of hopefully tomorrow, whenever I take pictures of this banner that I'm working on finished, I will be submitting my last assignment as a final year student at the University of Creative Arts in Farnham here in the UK. For those of you who haven't met me before, hi, I'm Katie Silverwings. I am a glassblower and textile artist originally from Texas. Now, up until this end of the week, studying for my bachelor's degree in glass and crafts from the University of Creative Arts in Farnham. And I am currently still in my house. I've been working for quite some time on getting all of my stuff that I've done this term put into pictures and files and all sorts of things so that I can submit it for my professors to look at. And yeah, it's been a lot of computer work that has been very tedious and boring, and I much prefer getting in the studio and making things. So today I am finishing up, hopefully I'll be finishing up a banner that I've been started on. For those of you who aren't aware of what I do, I make patchwork pieces and glass pieces, and I kind of set those together so that they get all sorts of nice contrasts and reflections. And let me grab something so I can show you. Actually, first, I promised my mother I would send her a link to this. So I have to remember how to do that because I'm still new to all of this. Here we go. So I'll go to this. There we go. And someday I will know how to do technology more efficiently. But anyway, for anybody who might be watching who has not seen my work before, there's a little bit of it in the background here, but one moment. So I have quite a few pictures of different things that I've made up on my Instagram that have been posted onto my Facebook page here. So if you're really curious about what I do, hi Cheyenne. I'm doing a live stream thing again. Yay. So for anybody who's curious, this is the kind of patchwork banners that I'm talking about. My project that I was working on was going to be, well, I am working on, and it will someday be when I have a space to put it up, a bunch of patchwork banners kind of like this, hanging down in a space, combined with, scare you there, with things like this that have similar patterns executed in glass down inside them. So yeah, this is the kind of glass blowing that I do, and that's the kind of fabric that I make. And today I'm working on one of the fabric pieces because I have not been in the studios on campus for 8 weeks now. I have one of these bottles that I made that's a little bit bigger, and I don't know how it's turned out because it's still in the annealing kiln on campus because they closed the campus for insert world situation here. They closed it the day after I had made it, and the piece was still too hot to take out. So hopefully in a couple of months I'll find out whether those pieces worked. But as it is, I'm going to set this thing back down. Just lay this over here on my pile of craft supplies that I need to organize. And let me show you what I'm working on today. So I have, for those of you who have watched me before, you may have seen me working on these lovely things. There's 32 of them, 34, either 34 or 32. There's a bunch of these little log cabin blocks that I've made that are made specifically to match. Here I go off camera again. So these pieces are made specifically to match these pieces that I made in glass that will eventually become part of things like that bottle. So, made all of these to match this. And now what I'm doing, and what I'll hopefully be finishing today, I'm going to be making a few of these bigger blocks in not the patterned fabrics, but this was my sample. So I'm going to be making a few of these to go with all of these to make kind of a two-pattern banner. It's going to be really pretty once I get it done. So, yeah. And as always, I do have something of an extremely conversational style when I'm doing the live streams. If you have any question, comments, want to say hi, etc., anything that you want to know more about, if you see pieces of glass in the background that you want to see up close, let me know and I will gladly pick them up and show them to you, because I like talking about my glass and I don't get to do that very much because I'm stuck in my house most of the time right now, as are we all. Anyway, so let me just get you turned around to the workspace, and you can see I've got a couple other projects in the works up on the pin board there, and it is a beautiful day in Farnham, which is why I have my windows kind of open at the moment to let some air in. And I've got my center blocks for the middle. I'm just going to pin this up on the wall so that's where I can see it. So I've got my center block for the middle of these cut. And now I just need to make all of the things that go around the border of it. There's a lot of pins underneath on this board because I had to go through and dig with my pins. So I just need to find my reference book. Ah, here it is. So the pattern I'm using for these bigger piece blocks is called Sawtooth Star. And it is a fun one. And it uses these units called flying geese, which, pull this around, which are these bits right here, where it's two small triangles and one big triangle that make kind of a two square wide rectangle thing. So I need to see how big the final size of those is going to be. People who think that by going into art you're never going to have to do math, I've got another thing coming for you. A lot of what I do, be it patchwork, math is involved, a lot of geometry in patchwork. Glass, temperature math, and time calculations and weight calculations. In art, we use math a lot more than we think we're going to. So, there's some inches here. And my final size of these is 5 1/4 inches. This is important because I'm doing a special technique for making my little sawtooth star sections. So 5 1/4 inches. And I just have to find, so for those of you who are interested in doing quilting and patchwork, this is one of my favorite little books for this. No sponsorships or anything here, not allowed to do that right now. But this is a really nice book. It is nothing but charts of quilt math and list all the charts. If you're interested in getting into this kind of stuff, I highly recommend looking for books about quilt making and stuff. I find I like having a physical book that I can make notes in or put little sticky notes on a lot better than always having to hunt down my, hunt down my computer or find things online over and over again. I like having books. I get that from my mother. But this one also has the cutting math already done for me, so I don't have to spend ages double checking my calculations. Because I still may need to do that. I want my finished block size on these to be 5 and actually probably close to 5 now that yeah, 5. So, and that should be by 2.5. Okay, that makes it easier. So 5 by 2.5 finished size, which means my large. So there's a special method for getting a bunch of these flying geese units made all at once that I prefer to use when I'm doing stuff like this. And it basically, I cut big squares, little squares, and I seam them together in certain ways and cut them in certain ways, and then I end up with 4 units instead of having to cut the individual components for them one at a time and then sew them one at a time. Speeds things up a bit, and since I'm going to be making a grand total of 6 of these in 3 different colors, and each one has to have 4 of these units, doing it this way is going to be great. So now I have my cutting numbers found out, and I'm just going to put with a pencil, pencils are great, a little mark next to what I'm supposed to be doing on this. So I need to get my cutting situation. Pins can go over here. Again, I know I haven't been doing the live streams very much. That's mainly to do with the fact I've been staring at my computer screen for ages trying to get all of my schoolwork into digital format. On the plus side, this means I have lots of photos of things that once I'm officially turned things in, I'm going to start posting up on Instagram and on here and on my website, which I have a website now. It was one of my required assignments, which is katiesilverwings.com. If you want to give me critiques on my website and different things, please feel free to. And I will be in the coming months of the summer posting more of my work up on there, because in order to get it turned in for the grade, I only had to have so much on. I have more stuff I need to turn in. So got my cutting mat, which yes, it's bowed a little bit. It'll relax. I don't have a flat constant work surface, so these end up sitting against a wall and they curve a little bit, but eventually it'll flatten out and I can just put a couple books on this if I wanted to. I use a rotary cutter for a lot of my work. So what am I looking for? I am looking for fabric for large squares, and they are going to be 6 1/4 inches. So where is, there it is. So this is the first fabric I'm using for these small and border units. And this is a tie-dyed blue fabric. I use Procyon MX dyes on these things, and basically just fiber reactive dyes that work in cold water, so I can do these fun things with tie-dye effects. So I turn this back over so it's a little bit easier to cut. So what I need is 2 6 1/4 inch squares of this fabric, and then later I'll actually have to come in and cut some smaller squares, but I'm to use for the corners, but I will do those later. Hi, Jane. When people I am friends with come into the chat on this version, I can see you, or at least I can see that you've joined, so I can say hello. Fellow long-suffering final year student who makes absolutely beautiful silver things. But okay, so I've lined this up at 6 1/4, and I'm actually I'm just going to use my rotary cutter. Yes, I know this is not the most efficient way to do this. This is just how I use a rotary cutter, to just kind of cut along there and cut along there. And there is my first square. And I will hold both of these up so you can see the patterns better in a bit. So back to my 6 1/4 and 6 1/4 marks. And yes, I do all of my patchwork in inches because inches make sense to me. I'm American. It's kind of weird. I get my metric and my imperial mixed up all the time now because I've been working here for the last 3 years and having to use metric for all of my glass stuff, especially when it comes to temperatures. So in glass terms, my brain is set on metric because that's how I learned everything. Everything else, pretty much, I'm set on imperial and Fahrenheit and things like that. So I'm going to set this cloth over back here to the side so I can get to it later, because I'm going to be using that again. And I'm just going to show you these two very wrinkly pieces of fabric. So these are the same set of dies as my blue pieces up on the wall here. I'll show you those when I start getting things put together. Except that this was folded. It started off as a 2 meter or almost 2 yard long piece of fabric that I folded up a bunch and put into the leftover dye from the ice dyed fabric that I made, which is a dark blue. So I've got this one. You can see they have some really nice patterns in that. I absolutely love hand dyeing my quilting fabric. It just makes everything so much nicer. And I can control the tones of the colors a little bit better. You can see some of the other fabric I've dyed right up in here. For the most part, if it is in my house right now, the fabrics I will tell you if something is not something that I've dyed, more likely, because pretty much everything in here right now is stuff that I've dyed for this project. So there's another one, again, very wrinkly, but has a lovely sort of a sunburst to it. I am looking forward to when I'm living somewhere where I have the kind of sinks and things that I can set up and dye things without worrying that my landlord will decide he doesn't like me anymore if I start doing it. Because I like where I live. I don't want to anger my landlord when I move out sometime later this year. Anyway, so there's the first two. And as with many things, I really need to get a couple more cork boards in here, but this should be fine. So pinning these up with everything else on the corkboard wall so that they're out of the way. And now I need 2 of my light red fabric and 2 of my duckling fabric. I'm going to do the duckling first. So I call this fabric the duckling fabric. This was dyed in the same leftover stuff from my yellow ice dye fabric I've been using for a lot of these. That's the bright yellow. And it looks like baby duck. It is baby duck yellow. I mean, just look at this. It is duckling. I really like these fabrics that I dyed. And I'm going to turn the light on so you can see a little bit better. Don't know how much that helps. There's a lot of natural light in my apartment. I don't really notice it being dark in here until I'm trying to do stuff with my computer and suddenly I look down and, oh, hey, I can't really see anything. Granted, I do have the backlight, but anyway. So I'm going to line this up just the same as before and cut myself 2 6.5-inch wide squares. Now, if I were doing a lot more of these blocks, I would actually probably tear or cut a long strip and then break that down into squares. But since I'm just doing enough blocks to finish this banner right now, it doesn't matter as much. And of course, I hope wherever you are that you are safe and healthy and that your family is as well. Because it's been a long year already. It's only May. It's been a long year. So once again, there's my lovely duckling fabric. And it's going to go back over here because I will need some smaller cuts from that later. And here's a closer look at the duckling fabric. So you can see it's a very pale yellow. It's got a lot of wrinkles. I'm going to have to iron these. It's got some of these little tie marks in it, which I personally think look a little bit like barbed wire. And I have some fabric that I've dyed in the past that really has a nice crisp barbed wiry look to it. And I'm going to go back to doing that some more when I'm done with my schoolwork related things. Hi, Riaz. It's been a while. So there's the other piece of duckling fabric. And all of this fabric that I'm using for this project is cotton poplin, 100% cotton, and that I've either dyed myself, or in a bit I'll be cutting some plain white bits. I do like working with cotton. It works really well for quilting. It washes well, it dyes well, and you know, I grew up on a cotton farm, so I'm kind of partial to the stuff. And of course, here we have my light red fabric, or my pink fabric, however you want to call it. And this was, like the other two, dyed in the leftover dye liquid from my ice dye batch of the dark red that I've got, or dark red with tones of pink, which I can show you. So this was the ice dyed fabric, and this is what I dyed with the leftover liquid. Same technique as with the other ones where it's been folded and tie-dyed. But I really like when I'm dyeing fabrics, if I have a discharge bath I can use to get some extra yardage dyed to match. I really like doing that, especially with the ice dye tie-dye combo. It makes for some really nice tonal options there. And I feel like it's a nice way of using that leftover dye. All right, so now I'm just going to cut my two 6 1/4 inch squares here. So there's one. And I will say, I'm not fond of pink, and this fabric reminds me a little bit of that tone that bubblegum has, but it did get some really nice patterns when I dyed it. So I'm happy with it, even if it's pink. There we go. Set this aside as well. And say hello to Lupe, because I see that you have joined the watch group now. All right, so there are my two pinkish squares, and you can see a little bit more of that tie-dye effect in the corners here of this fabric. It doesn't look nearly as pink when it's put next to other pat fabrics. So there I've got my big squares, and now I'm going to get my white done. And for that, I'm actually going to tear a strip off and then cut it down to squares, because this is how all of these fabrics I'm using today started out. They all looked like this originally. This white fabric was actually taken off the same bolt even. So there's my selvage edge. And I'm going to use a slightly different technique for getting these squared, because I know I'm going to need quite a few of them. So I need 3 3/8 inch wide squares. So I'm going to make sure that I've got my selvage straight here, which I do. That's the line I've been tearing this fabric along. And since this is a nice straight grain cotton fabric, I can just tear a strip. Yeah, it has, Reyes, I'm seeing your comment. Yeah, it has been a long time since I've been showing things, and I do hope you like the pictures I've been posting of the patchwork with the glass. And hopefully I will be a bit more active now that I'm not having to deal with getting all of my files digitized and ready to send in to my professors. So, yeah. I'm actually thinking once I've got all of my house reorganized and stuff, I may just turn my kitchen into turn a corner in here into some sort of mini exhibition space and show y'all what I was wanting to do with this. Incidentally, if anybody knows a gallery that wants to have an installation art piece of glass and patchwork, do let me know, because I am looking for a place to host this body of work once I'm allowed to travel and set things up and finish making some of the glass pieces. So I need 3 3/8 inch. I have been tearing off the other edge of this, or is it just one? Yeah, that's the edge I've been tearing off when it's much straighter. Okay, and now there's that. That'll be more than enough for this, I think. So now I've got my 3 3/8 inch wide strip of fabric, and all I have to do is cut this down into small squares. And for each one of these, I need 4 small squares. So that means 24 small squares. I'm just going to square this up first. And now I'm going to go in for my 3 3/8. And I apologize if there's road noise, if there's a lot of road noise in the background here. One of the busier streets in Farnham is just outside this window and down a few feet. But I'm just going to make sure these are all squared up once I cut them and that there's no extra bits on them. Yeah. 1. This is a different way, so I have a more comfortable way of cutting it. Ah, Lupe, I've seen your comment. Hello, stranger. It has also been a while. Yes, I'm finally except for finishing this banner, done with all of my schoolwork, and I spent the last couple of weeks doing absolutely nothing but getting an essay written and pictures put in with that, and then getting all of my other assignments digitally ready to submit. And now all I have to do is finish this banner, take a picture of it, and put it in for my professors to see, because that's pretty much it at this point of what I can do before my deadline, which is Friday. But I should be done this evening, hopefully. I hope things are well where you are also. Gonna need to get a sharpener for this blade. All right, so just gonna square these up. So hot, sunny, and normal for this time of year. That does sound like home. And I'm sorry I worried if I did worry anybody. I just was at a point where every time I would think, I should probably work on some patchwork, it was also it's almost 10 o'clock at night and I've forgotten to eat dinner because I've been staring at this computer all day. So it kind of just happened. And hello, Dad. I'm glad you liked the presentation. Hopefully you'll be stick around. Hopefully you'll be seeing me actually sew something soon once I get all these pieces put together and pinned. Accurate cutting takes forever, but is well worth it. Because if I cut the pieces accurately in the first place, my seams will line up later. So there's 4. And I may have to cut some more of these in a bit, I'm not sure. Is that quite interesting? And on the subject of weather, as you can see, it is bright and sunny here. Most of the light in my house right now is just the sunshine coming in from outside. Also, I can see now that Denise is here. Hi, Denise. I hope things at the gym are running well. I have cotton. Storm rolling in on a camping trip. Yeah, that does sound pretty much some early summer, late spring in West Texas. Again, it's still been really nice weather here for the most part, the last however long it has been. For the most part, somewhat sunny. Few clouds here and there. Not nearly as wet as I would think it was supposed to be, but 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, I need to get another strip because I need about 6 more of these. So once again, I'm going to tear a strip of white and cut it down to size. So line up 4, 3, and 3 quarters. Three-eighths, 3 and 3/8, not 3 and 3/4. There's a big difference. Sorry, allergies. Have to have the windows open for ventilation, and the pollen comes in. It is spring. Formal. And then I can press everything. All right. Just need to neaten these up. All right, that's all of the pieces cut now. I will have to come in and cut some squares later for the corners of these blocks, but I'm focusing right now on getting all of the flying geese ready, which means that first I have to press everything. Get that back in a minute. So, as usual, iron on, which is why the window is open, so that all the heat from the iron leaves the house. Thank you. I get the feeling there's a bit of a lag going on when I'm saying things or sneezing and when you're seeing them. But in any case, hello. So I'm just going to lightly press each of these component pieces to take the wrinkles out so that they don't give me any problems when I'm sewing them. As long as I get most of the wrinkles out, I'm happy. So last time I was making a huge batch of flying geese units. I ended up having to make 134 individual units. It took quite some time. But doing them in batches like this does make it much faster when I have to do that. I do like flying goose borders. They just make me happy. I have some designs for things that I may end up making in the near future that are nothing but different sizes of those. But right now, I just want this one last banner done so that I can turn it in. All right. And that's the last of the pressing, thank goodness. So now, the way this works, I'm going to get my smaller cutting mat out so I just have a little bit more of a surface here. So, got my squares. And on each of these squares, I'm going to take and get me my pins back. And pin on 2 little white squares on each corner. This is why that accurate piecing is kind of important here. So pin. So those go on there. And I'm going to get my other rulers. Gravity exists. I'm going to get one of my other rulers out for this because I just need to be able to draw a straight line. And my small one that I use for most things would be too small. Got a pencil down there as well that I need to move. And there's my other ruler. On the Cave of Wonders down there. So, just going to go corner to corner here. And use my pencil to just mark a line. And then pin across that line. And to start in the center with these just so I can make sure I catch the 2 white pieces so they won't get away. And then pin here. And pin here. So this is how I start out arranging these. So it becomes 2 white bits on a big piece. So I'm going to set that to the side and pin the rest of these. Again, this is why I like doing these as batches, because each one of these big squares is going to yield me 4 smaller units. And doing it this way also helps keep that bias angle from crawling all over the place and making seams that are uneven. And as always, if there's anything y'all would like me to talk about while I'm pinning, please do feel free to ask questions. I know I don't have the best setup for angles for actually watching what I'm doing, but I'm here to keep you company and for you to keep me digital company while I'm making things. So there's the second one. Loud engines outside today. So there's that one. Hi, Mom. Yes, I like them too. These are actually the ones that I'm showing you right now are the outer ring of colors. So the outside of these blocks is going to be the light color, and then the inside is going to be the dark. But right now I'm just pinning things together. I have to say, for things like flying geese and for the half square triangle units, if I do use these techniques where I make a whole bunch of the same unit at once, using clever pinning and stitching and cutting techniques, because it's a lot faster and a little bit more accurate in some respects as long as you're cutting things correctly than cutting a bunch of tiny little bitty things all at once. So there's the blue. And one more, and then I can turn you around and get to sewing. And there's the last one. So I'm just going to turn you around back to the sewing machine angle. And again, pardon the mess, I am cleaning my house a little bit. I'm just going to check and make sure. Yes, I still have plenty of battery on my computer. So now I can tilt you down so you can see our good friend Gertrude, the sewing machine. If you haven't met her before, and I figure since it's been a while, some of you may not have, Gertrude is my sewing machine. She is almost 100 years old. 1924 Singer 99 hand crank machine. Works great without electricity. No fuss, just gears and moving parts that are all metal. Absolutely lovely machine to work with. Sews a nice straight stitch. She doesn't do zigzags or anything fancy like embroidery, but she does have some feet for doing special techniques. And again, for my purposes, works really well. And I'm very excited that I'm going to be able to continue working with her for a long time, because since this doesn't require electricity, I don't have to get a power converter in order to take her home with me when I move back to the States. So I'm just going to move my pins as I go. And I'm just sewing a line of stitches along either side of that line that I marked with my pencil, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side. And of course I have my little glass pot that I made that I put my pins in as I'm going. I do have to remember to take the pins out every time I come to one with Gertrude, though, because otherwise it could damage her needle. And now I'm going to just turn this around put it back under the presser foot, and sew along the other side of that line. I'll cut this one off so you can see what I'm talking about once I've sewn it. And okay, so this is what I'm talking about. I don't know how well you can see it on this side, but there's my line that I drew, and you can see there's a line of stitches on either side. So when I cut this, I'll cut it along that line to separate the two halves and do the next step. So I'm just gonna sew the rest of these. There's the second one. And just since I am turning these around to make it a little easier, I'm going to clip these as I go. So there's another one, and you can really see those two parallel stitch lines on the back against the blue. And there's that one. There's that duckling yellow fabric again. I do like this fabric. And there's another one. Two more. It's a lot faster going through the stages with this than it was when I was doing all 34 blocks at once, that's for sure. Last one. And there's the last one. So now I'm going to get a drink real quick, and then I'm going to turn you around and cut these apart. Apple juice that's sitting away from the fabric. All right, so it's time to do some cutting. So I'm going to turn you around here back to the cutting and pressing station. And now I'm going to cut all these in half along that same line that I drew earlier. Using my handy little guide here just to make sure my cut is straight. And that gives me these two lovely triangles with little triangles on them, which when I press them, the little triangles pop out. So there's those. So now that all of these are cut, I have to press them open. So I'm going to set my roller back up here out of the way. And turn the iron on. So for pressing these, it's really easy. I'm just going to pop them straight over. Actually, I want to pop these over towards the dark fabric here. Or do I want to press them up? I think I'm going to press these open all the way. Yeah, I prefer my seams open. So that is what it looks like once it's pressed open. So now I just have to press the rest of these open. Just lightly finger press them open first before I bring the iron over. Pressing takes forever, but it is an important step as far as getting your seams to line up nicely later is concerned and accurately piecing things. It just takes an age. last one. All right, so there is that one. And the idea now is that I take one of my white squares and I'll pin this along here like that, sew it again in that same method, cut it apart, and then I'll have a unit on either side. At least that's the hope. It's time to pin things. Yay! Just the exciting, riveting content you wanted in your day, isn't it? Once again, I'm drawing myself a nice pencil line so that I can see where I'm sewing. And there we are, ready to sew. So now I just have to prepare the rest of these. Lots of penning going on now. But I'm on to the blue ones, so just 4 more. So I decided with this quilt to do these larger blocks. They're going to end up being about 10 inches wide, so twice the size of the log cabin ones that I was making, to kind of show off the patterns in these fabrics that I've dyed. Because in the small strip level, you don't see as much of that really detailed patterning. So these will be showing some larger cuts of the fabric and a little bit more of that detail, in contrast to what's going on in the thin strips. So that's the hope anyway. And there's the last one. So now, again, just checking. Yep, still have battery. Just going to turn you around this way once more to the sewing machine view. There we go. And I'm going to, just like before, sew along both sides of that diagonal line. This one backwards. And just going to continue on like that. I will clip this one from before off so I can show you. And there it is. There's the seam lines from the back. And there's seam lines from the front. There we go. Now you can see the pile growing.
I think these look a little bit like stingrays, don't they? Four more. Getting there.
last one. And there we go. So now, once again, I need to go cut these apart along that line that I drew and then press them open, and then I will have all of my little flying goose units ready to go. So, time to turn you around. Back to the window and patchwork wall view. So, just like before, I'm just going to cut these in half along that line between the two rows of stitching. My trusty rotary cutter. And that makes a little thing that looks like this. So of course I'll have to go in and press all of these once they're done cutting. All right. So now all I have to do is press these open, and then I'm done making the bits like this with the big triangle and the two little triangles that go around the center block. So just have to turn my trusty iron back on. Let's go back open a bit for air. And once again, I'm just going to press these seams right open. And there we have it, the completed flying goose unit. And you really see what I'm talking about with that, showing off the patterns. And I have to say, this kind of looks like a koi fish to me, this big bit right in here. And then with the lines behind it, I really like how this fabric turned out. There's one of those really nice rubber band barbed wire marks in this one. I love that patterning. There's 4 more, or rather 8 more, but still. I'm down to the red ones is what I'm trying to say. And again, someday when I can figure out the appropriate webcams and software and stuff to stream from multiple angles, I will do that so you can really see my viewpoint on these as I'm doing them. But for now, I am an ambient noise making pretty things. And again, if anyone has questions, comments, things they want me to talk about while I'm working, please. I do this in part as a way of me being able to talk to myself without feeling like I'm losing my mind. So if you have something you'd like me to talk about, please leave me a comment, and when I see it, I will respond. Two more. And last one. There we go. So I'm actually going to stop here for right now because it has been 2 hours and I need to take a break. So I'm going to stop working on this for right now. I'm going to stop the stream here. I may come back and do a bit more work on these later, but in any case, I will hopefully be running the stream again tomorrow to show you how things have come out if I've done any more of it during the day. And yeah, so if you like watching me do patchworky stuff, and I do have some other unfinished things around my house that I'm going to be working on as soon as my assessment stuff is turned in, do feel free to follow me on this Facebook page or Instagram, which you can find through my Facebook page. And if you're interested in seeing more stuff from me, I will be in the coming weeks posting pictures of all of the shiny glass things that I've made this year, that are actually where you can really see the details in them. So yeah, I hope wherever you are having a good day and that you and yours are healthy and safe, or will be so soon. And remember, there's always something better on the horizon. We'll get through all of this, whatever you happen to be going through. And take some time to do something creative if you have a chance. It will help. I know this really helps my overall well-being when I can actually get some fabric out or something and do something with my hands. It really helps with a lot of things. Anyway, I will see y'all next time. Hopefully that will be soon, probably tomorrow. Bye!